It's all good though. You now tune into the biggest ever. YMCMB, Tunchi Lee, Young Angel, Young Lion, man. Y'all boys get on the track with Onika Mirage and y'all still dying, man. What's up? We in this bitch. This ain't gonna be the first time that I do numbers on 2 crutches. Seen more plaques than 2 brushes. Until I'm at the pearly white gates, I gotta move something, do something. All meetings happen in person, so they can't prove nothing. No, they ain't.
Let's get ready to rumble!
What's going on, world? We got a special guest with us, Morgan Campbell, sports writer, author, and commentator. I'm pretty sure you're wearing another hat now with CBC.
I wear all the hats. How many hats you need me to wear?
Yeah, man. Yeah. You've been around for a long time, brother. I mean, I remember reading about your articles in the Toronto Star. Obviously, it's a big news article here in the city. And yeah, man, you've covered my brother, his career coming up. You've covered boxing.
Yep.
You're married to a track star.
Yep. Written a lot, like interviewed your dad a trillion times.
Yeah, man.
Training. Yeah, man.
This is not a new block for you, man. So
no.
I'm glad to have you here. Obviously, get your take on the fight and the Eye of the Tiger show that went on in Gatineau. I believe it was Gatineau Casino there.
Yeah, and so that's where some of your, especially the hardcore fans that love Canadian boxing, that's where some of you guys might recognize me from. Is that for the last year and a half, Corey Erdman and I have been doing the English broadcast of those Eye of the Tiger management shows mostly from Montreal, but sometimes from Gatineau, Quebec. That's where we were last weekend. Sometimes from Shawinigan, Quebec, which, listen, man, these guys have brought me to parts of Canada I thought I would never see. But it is one of my favorite gigs.
No doubt. And that's on ESPN too as well. So
ESPN Plus, exactly. And I think that's what happened with them was that, a couple of years ago, their English-speaking audience was really small because it was only in Canada. So they didn't have they would stream their shows, but they didn't always have an English broadcast team. But when they did when they did this ESPN deal, their English-speaking audience grew from a few dozen hardcores in Canada to now potentially thousands of people in the US, Australia, wherever. So they needed consistent English broadcasts. So Corey was already in touch with them and he brought me along, and now we do the thing, great, man. Every 6 or so weeks we're back in Montreal. My French is getting a little bit less crappy every time.
No, like I'm gonna get Campbell on the show soon, but they've been active, man. They've had a lot of shows this year.
So it's every 6 to 8 weeks. Basically, they've got a deep roster. And one of the things, I say this all the time, I say this on the air, I really enjoy about those shows, not just as a broadcaster, but as a fan, is the fact that you get to see a group of prospects, a group of young contenders develop. And you get to grow with them, and they get to grow their fan base. But you get to see these guys, because so many of them are so active, like John Arobio, he fights every month. Fendero, this guy's fighting like every 8 weeks. But like you don't get to see them in the gym every day, but you get very regular updates about what they're working on, how they're improving, what parts of their game they're sharpening, because you get to see them every week, every 6 weeks. If things go according to plan, every 6 weeks against a slightly better opponent. So it's really been thrilling to sort of be along for this ride. And that's before we even get to like the established guys like Steve Clagett, guys on the verge of something like Arthur B. Arsenov.
Yes, yeah. Let's start there with Arthur, man. I mean, I'm excited for him.
You want, homie?
Because obviously I got to watch him as an amateur here in Ontario. Always had high hopes for the guy. He starts out with I think Prolim with Richard Schaefer. Doesn't really get a lot of fights. I felt bad for him because I'm like, man, I don't want his career to go to the dump, because this is a guy who's an Olympian, won a Pan Am gold. Like, he's a declarated amateur, and he's in a good division. He can be one of the top guys in the division. How do you think the Eye of the Tiger, they've been moving him so far? Because I think he's not even looking, I think he's already fought 3 or 4 times this year.
Yes, the question for Arthur has never been talent or drive or ability. It's always just been consistency. And from the time he turned pro, it's probably, because I was at that card. It was on a Sam Vargas undercard at the Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yep.
It was
Sam
the same
Vargas,
day
yep.
that Canelo had his first fight on DAZN. So that was all the same day. So Arthur turned pro. But for the first 4 or 5 years of his pro career, he was in and out of contracts, changing managers. I think he fought over in UAE a couple times. But just staying in the ring, staying consistent, that ability to build. He hasn't had that until recently. Now, he's had 4 fights this calendar year with Eye of the Tiger management. And the last 2 was a quick turnaround because in September he was supposed to fight Marcos Villasana Jr. And then Villasana couldn't get a visa to come to Canada and compete. So a last-minute opponent from Hungary. And the guy wasn't on Arthur's level. And it was a disappointment for Arthur, a disappointment for Camille. It was a disappointment for everyone because he was ready for people he's ready to fight his peers now, right? He doesn't have to fatten his record on cab drivers anymore. He's ready to step up in class.
Right.
He didn't really get that chance in September, but he got the chance this past weekend against Jonathan Jose Enis. And shutout victory. Enis was a tough, crafty, durable fighter. But Arthur won probably every minute of every round of that fight. And if I remember correctly, I think he's now in the WBC top 20. He can start knocking on some doors.
Yeah. And that's where you want to be, is when you're in the top 20, top 15, preferably, because the challenger can call you at that point.
Yes.
But I mean, he's definitely right there. He's held the NBF title.
NABF title.
NABF, sorry.
So, you're probably too young to remember this, but if you grew up in the 80s like I did, 80s and 90s, like Top Rank Boxing on Tuesday nights on ESPN, Tuesday and Wednesday nights on ESPN TSN, like the NABF junior welterweight title, like the Harold Braziers and Charles Murrays of the world held that belt. Like, that's a prestigious belt, man.
No doubt.
At least to people my age, to you youngsters, you probably don't know like how much luster that belt actually has, but
Yeah, no, I think that belt's important, especially like when you want to be ranked and you want to move up. Like, this is what you need, man. Is that? Yeah,
and so Arthur, I know he's 29, and he has said that he wants a world title before he turns 30. And the it's sort of a blessing and a curse in the 140-pound division because there is so much talent on the world level. And in Canada, there's 10 different quality Canadians in that weight class. And so there are always options, but then, the downside of it is, if you are trying to get a shot at a Teofimo Lopez, at a Ryan Garcia, not Ryan Garcia, because we don't know what weight he's going to show up at, but Devin Haney.
Yeah, Devin Haney. Yep.
Because there are so many options, how do you stand out from all the other options? And so that's one of the challenges too. No,
that's a great division that he's in. Like, man, even when you start going down, Matias, Paro, Richard Hutchinson. Man, Steve Claggett's still there too. There's a lot of talent, and you got to think Camille.
Regis Prograis is still kicking.
Yeah, exactly. Regis and Catterall are going to fight this weekend coming up. So there's a lot of names, even outside of like just titles, just good fights for him, good wins for him.
And Elvis Rodriguez still around. Michelle Rivera still around. The technician Jermaine Ortiz.
Yeah,
he just signed a new deal with
Box Lab, I believe. That's probably a fight they can probably get early next year, I think.
That would be an intriguing fight.
Yeah, because that's a guy who has been in there with Tszyu and Loma, and some people thought he beat Loma, some people thought he beat Tszyu. Like, so those are high level guys. So that's where you measure your measuring stick. But I think it's easy. He's in a perfect place where he wants to be. Obviously, those titles are not going to come easy because of who's at the top of the top. But he can definitely put his name in the hat, man.
Yeah, and that's the key is to build a following, build a reputation, get into the top 15 so you can get that phone call. We've seen it work for Steve Claggett. We've seen it work even while we're talking about Montreal guys and Eye of the Tiger guys like Eric Bazinian, who coming off of that draw against Shaquille Finn.
Yeah, it's Jaime. And fights good against Jaime too.
Listen, that's the best I've ever seen him look. And if you had told me after that draw against Shaquille Finn that he'd go out there and give Jaime Munguia fits, I would have said, you're lying to me. I would not have believed you. But he whatever he needed to do between fights, he did it. And he made the adjustments. And so it is often a matter of, for the Canadian guys of putting yourself in position to receive that call.
I agree.
Staying undefeated, or not even because Clagett's not undefeated, but just putting together winning streaks.
Right.
Staying healthy, staying consistent, building your fan base, and putting yourself in a position to get that call.
Yeah, I think that's something that all the fighters need to hear actually more. It's not about the losses, man. It's about getting the win streaks, having good wins.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna play with the lighting a little bit.
No problem,
man. Give me 1 second. Let me see. I'm gonna see if it looks better on the overhead light.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, that's something that we want to look at. Make sure you guys smash the like button if you're coming in.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Yeah,
the ring light was it was clashing with the silver on the,
Yeah. But yeah, like we said, getting win streaks is definitely important. Beating the guys who are in front of you, and like Steve Clagett, he definitely is an example of that. It's a guy who has 4 losses. Everybody was like, "Who's Steve Clagett?" But he goes in there, and he put some lumps on Tszyu. Man, Tszyu didn't look like he was clean when he came out that fight. So it shows you that these guys are of level. They just need the opportunity.
It's funny. The first Steve Clagett fight I ever covered, it was same year as 2018 at the Powerade Center in Brampton, your part of the world.
Yeah.
And he was fighting Petro Sinanian. Right?
Okay.
And Steve Clagett was supposed to lose that fight. And Steve Clagett got dropped in the first round of that fight. And Steve Clagett just clawed his way back into that fight and winds up beating Petro Sinanian for a regional title.
Right.
And that win, we talk about wins that age well, and that win aged really well because less than 2 years later, here's Petro Sinanian beating Subriel Matias.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And so that should have been the clue that, like, Clagett, for whatever his record said, by the time we came back to him, he had 7 losses. But for whatever his record said, he clearly had some skills and some desire, and some ability to put those skills to use.
Yep.
And Clagett, I talk about this all the time with Steve Clagett. He's old school. He's an old school pressure fighter in a lot of ways, and an active pressure fighter, because he stays active. Like, he doesn't need to be in the big fight. He will take the medium-sized fights just to stay busy, and he'd rather show you what he's doing in the ring than train for 8 months at a time and then pop up, once or twice a year. And in the ring, he sets a really fast pace, and he challenges you to match his punch output.
Right.
And most people find after 3 or 4 rounds, they get lured into trying to match Steve Clagett's punch output, and then they get exposed. And as the fight goes on, he starts widening his advantage. And he's a guy, like, he got that Teofimo fight for 2 reasons. One was that he was available. He's in the top 15 because he had that winning streak. He'd beaten Alberto Machado, who was really accomplished coming into that fight. Former world champion 130. Yeah. Had beaten Miguel Madueño, who is a solid contender. He's about to fight Keyshawn Davis next week.
Right. Lemos. Yeah. Some people think he beat Richard.
Sorry. Lemos is fighting Keyshawn. Madueño's already fought Keyshawn. Sorry. But so he got that fight because he put together that win streak, had some impressive wins, wound up in the top 15, but also because of his style. One of the things Teofimo was looking for was somebody to bring the best out of him.
Yeah, that's true.
The rap on Teofimo was that if you move against Teofimo, he might beat you, but he just won't look good because he needs a guy that's going to come to him.
Right.
And Steve Clagett was that guy. And so, it was a lopsided decision, but as you said, he did touch Teofimo a little bit. And, he came out of it without injuries, even though, his record is what it is. He's 35 years old, but Steve Clagett feels like he's a young 35, feels like he learned a lot in that Teofimo fight and feels like he's still improving.
Right.
And that win last Thursday against Eduardo Estela, like, that was a quality win. Estela is a very good fighter.
Yeah.
He's not on Teofimo's level, obviously, but this is a guy that Estela, had only ever lost to sort of fringe world class guys.
Yeah, top level. Yep.
Yeah, and Estela still has ambitions of becoming a world champion, and Clagett just outclassed him. And so now he's back, I think, ranked number 12 in the WBC, so he can get that call.
Yes, exactly.
Again,
yep.
And because of the way he fights, even if he doesn't bring a massive fan base to the fight, the kind of fan base that makes the A sides happy because it makes rich people richer.
Right. Yeah.
What he does offer is an exciting fight because of the way he fights.
No, that's true.
He's always in the conversation. As long as he can put together another win streak, stay in the win column, he's always in the conversation.
Yeah, and that's where you want to be. That's exactly where you want to be. And to be honest, so do you think Arthur can get a Teofimo Lopez fight next year? Or even Elvis Rodriguez, maybe?
I'm not sure. So, now those are questions for Camille, right? And so what those fights, because I can't keep track of who is all signed to whom now.
Right. I know Tio is technically still signed to Bob.
Yeah. So I was gonna say a lot of those fights become easier because Eye of the Tiger and Top Rank have this agreement.
Right.
So it is a little bit easier if you want to put one of these guys on a bigger card, it can happen.
Yeah.
But these are the things that Camille and the team are wrestling with, and these are good problems to have because they got a bunch of guys at 140. They got Biarsanov and Clagett right now. John Arobio coming up behind them. He's still growing. He might grow into a welterweight, but and then at 168 they got a bunch of guys.
68 they got a lot of guys.
But these are very good problems to have. Biarsanov Elvis Rodriguez fight, I'd watch that fight. Biarsanov Jermaine Ortiz, I'd watch that fight. Biarsanov Michel Herrera, I'd watch the heck out of all those fights. But it's a question of getting the promoters to work together. Lining up the dates, getting the stakes
lining it all up, man.
Etc.
So we talked a bit about Steve. He got that. He got a stoppage actually. His last fight.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just a win. He comes up, makes a statement. After a loss. That's what you want to see. Like you said, performances. This is what it is. You gotta make something exciting for the people. Give the promoter something. Tell their fan base, hey, we're fighting a guy who just came off a big win. He's gonna be a challenge. He fought Teofimo Lopez. He's got those things in his hat now, and Steve's 35, but I still think that in boxing, when you look at the champs, a lot of them are in that range of 35, like the Usyk 35, Crawford is in his 30s. Like the top of the top seem to be, that's where the age is, like 35, 36.
Yeah, well, because the sport's a little bit different now. It sort of takes longer to build that following when you become a pay-per-view star. And athletes can extend their prime a little bit longer now. Because they understand more about nutrition and recovery and training, and they don't compete as often. They're not fighting like Sugar Ray Robinson, like literally fighting every 3 weeks. They're not doing that anymore.
James Toney, man.
So they can optimize their nutrition, training, recovery, and extend their prime. And the thing about Clagett, like if you have to sell him to like mainstream fans. So on the one hand, they look at his record and, because mainstream fans think this because boxing fans have allowed them to think this, which is that once you lose a fight, you're nothing.
Yeah.
If you are not undefeated, you're broken, you're not worthy, because boxing fans have helped promote this idea. So the mainstream fans pick it up. Right.
Yeah.
But in reality, often a less than perfect record just means you've been match tough and you've never turned down a challenge.
When do you think that changed? Because obviously Muhammad Ali's lost fights, Sugar Ray Leonard's lost fights, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler. No, he didn't.
Yeah, no, yeah, he
does. Like
he had a long winning streak, and then he lost to Leonard.
Yes, sorry, yes,
he did lose to
Leonard. Yes, when Leonard came back. Yes. So it's like these guys are all greats, all known obviously for their reigns, and I think like man, Roberto Duran's one of my favorite fighters. Just because him moving up, obviously, I think he's one of the best 35-pounders ever, but him moving up and challenging himself and winning fights, that's why I like Roberto Duran. Oscar De La Hoya, I grew up on Oscar. The same thing as Oscar, like just fought everybody. And even when he lost, I was like, yo, I give him respect because he gave us the fights that we wanted. This generation, it's like they're scared to do that. Like, I don't know when that change happened of it's got to be valued more than the fight. Like, I think the fight matters more.
Yeah, I think part of it, at least as far as mainstream fans were concerned, was like Mayweather De La Hoya was sort of that tipping point.
Oh, okay.
Because Mayweather, until that fight, was a person that boxing people knew, but mainstream fans didn't really know. But in the lead up to that fight, he got really famous. And one of his big selling points heading into that fight was that he was undefeated.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And so this was a lot of people's first introduction to boxing, like the casual fans. And their understanding of the fight game is that if you are really the best, you are undefeated.
Right.
And I don't think we've been able to shake that ever since.
No.
And part of it too is that because the top fighters they fight so infrequently now, it takes a lot longer to redeem yourself after a defeat. Because you're not back in the ring in 6 or 8 weeks. You're back in the ring in 6 or 8 months.
Right. That's true. That is true.
And so back in like the 50s, when people just fought all the time, if you lost, you go back into the lineup of contenders. But that line was always moving because people were always fighting.
Yeah.
Now, if I lose a fight, if I'm on my way to the big fight and I lose the fight, it's going to take me 3 years to put together another winning streak that's going to get me back in the picture, right? Right. So I think all of those things have to do with it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, man, because I think there's so much young talent right now in boxing. We can have so many good fights right now, but like you said, a lot of guys just want to keep that or they want to build up the fight marination. This is a lot of unnecessary stuff, in my opinion. But I'm a hardcore boxing fan. That's why I feel this way.
Yes,
I'm not like the casual fan who, like you said, watches the guys with the O. You know, I like Subriel Matias. I like watching him fight. He's lost 2 fights. You know, Devin Haney, he's still one of my favorite fighters. Like, despite what happened with him and Ryan Garcia, like, I want to see them fight again.
Yeah, and again, often the less than perfect record just means you've been match tough, that you've taken on challenges that you haven't said no.
Yep.
A lot of times that's the only thing it means. And so and if you're a world-class fighter losing to other world-class fighters, like, you know, there's no shame in that. There's no undefeated NFL teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Undefeated NBA teams. Right?
Yeah, we know they're all going to lose.
You're going against the best all the time. This is just what happens. Even Usain Bolt lost races every now and then. You know? I'm talking about
exactly.
2010 Usain Bolt.
Yeah, right? No doubt. And like, people probably don't talk about that much because of the wins, but yeah, he didn't win everything.
But that's the point too, is that like, as long as overall you're still world class and you're winning more than you're losing, then there's no shame in the occasional loss.
Yeah.
Who cares? Except people do care. Yeah.
Well, I love Lennox Lewis's reign because I felt like anybody who beat him, he went back and fought them and got the win. So
Lennox Lewis is a perfect example.
Yeah, he rematched a lot of his losses and avenged them.
Yeah.
That's the way I would go about it. But it is what it is, man.
Yeah, and I think part of it is just that people fight so infrequently now. It takes so long to rebuild from a loss. Like, Devin Haney, I think they overturned that loss. I think it's a no contest now. But that fight was in March. It's now October, and we don't know when we're going to see him in the ring again. You know?
Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation because I felt like he could have. Obviously, I get it why they're mad about the situation, but you still gotta, like you said, move your career forward, man. Like, he could have fought at least by now. He could have had at least one fight in.
Yes, except the thing you never know is if he suffered any injuries during the fight.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to really tell us that.
And then also just with Haney, you know, he gets so big between fights.
Yeah.
We don't know what he weighs right now. Like, he doesn't want to fight at 160 or whatever.
Right.
So if he wants to get back down, if he plans to compete at 140 long term, like it's going to be a process of getting back into that neighborhood, you know?
Yeah, I don't understand why they do that. I had kind of the pleasure of talking to his dad a bit, and I said, like, man, you guys look like you're gonna get to 54. I truly believe he will get to that weight because of the way he bulks up.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, we'll probably end there. I'm like, no, I think you guys will be there sooner than you think. Like, even if he comes back, 47 might be an option for him.
Except, I mean, you've been around boxers and you've been around the guys that fight now.
Yeah.
The 100 is a completely different size of human being at 154.
Yeah.
Because even look at the way Crawford in his first fight at 154, like he found out. And Crawford is tremendously physically strong. He's the first guy that we've ever seen just bully Errol Spence. And Errol Spence is physically very strong.
Yeah.
You know, but against Israel Madrimov, you know, the punches didn't have quite the same effect. And just he wasn't able to push Madrimov around like he's used to. So now Devin Haney, yeah, he might make 154 comfortably, but to function at 154, that's something different. That's a completely different task. And this is a guy we've seen him wobbled against Jorge Linares. We've seen him on the floor against Ryan Garcia. So I you know, the idea of him in the ring against taking shots from Tszyu and let me get my man's name right. Bakhram.
Yeah,
Bakhram. Right?
Yeah.
That is something different. Like if he thinks Linares and Ryan Garcia hit hard, you know, something different again, taking a shot from Terrence Crawford from Murtazaliev.
No, that's true. That is true. But like I look at kind of Devin Haney like an American, like extremely good boxing skills, obviously no chin, but Amir beat some guys, man. He beat some punchers, so it can be done, but they got to be perfect performances pretty much.
Yes, which how often does that happen?
No, you're gonna get cut, man. You're gonna get hit.
You know what's funny? Because boxing fans say this all the time. Nobody hates boxing as much as boxing fans do.
Yeah, it's so true.
And so I hear boxing fans complaining about Tank Davis fighting at lightweight.
Yeah.
You know, I guess he put a clause in his contract for the fight with Garcia.
Yeah, the weight clause. Yeah.
One, Tank Davis was also bound by this clause. So people are acting like Tank had a contract that let him show up at 155.
Right.
And Garcia had to starve himself to stay at 146. They both had to be 146 the morning before the fight. Two, they have weight classes for a reason.
Yeah, Tank is.
And so now we're acting like Tank is weird for reminding us all that weight classes exist for a reason. When really, what Tank is doing is no different from saying the contract says 8-ounce gloves, so show up with 8-ounce gloves. Don't come in here with no 6s, right?
Yeah.
This is what the contract says. These are the rules.
Yeah,
that's
what it is, man. That's what it is.
So if Garcia wasn't, or anyone, because people act like Tank Davis is out of line for doing this, but the Garcia Haney fight shows you what happens when there's no regard for weight classes. When a guy just says, "I'm not even going to bother trying to make the weight. I'll get close enough to the weights that the fight will go on, but not so far overweight that they will cancel the fight." Right, but I still have a big, and so, you know, if it was a in a perfect world, you would have, I wouldn't mind same day weigh-ins, but like everybody moves up a weight class, just fight at the weight that you are.
Yeah,
instead of putting so much effort into, you know, bending the weigh-in rules. I'm not that interested in that. I don't want to see a who can gain the most weight contest. Right. I don't want to turn on a fight and see a guy that weighed in at 168 comes to the ring at 175 versus a guy that weighed in at 168 comes to the ring at 200 pounds.
No, I agree, man. I know a lot of my American counterparts, they don't agree with me with the same day weigh-ins, but I tell them, man, we do it here in Ontario and it forces these guys to come in.
And what happens in Ontario is they get some leeway for the same day weigh-in.
Yes.
So if you weigh in at 147 the night before for welterweight fight, you still got to weigh in for the commission on the morning of, but you can be 155 or whatever it is.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm all for people of the same weight class fighting. Like, what is this? This is not like the early days. It's not like a UFC 1. Right. It was no time limits, no bell, no weight class.
Yeah.
Hoist Gracie versus a sumo wrestler. I don't want to see this. I want to see people this relatively the same size, same weights anyway.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's a 140 fight, so you come in at 140, man.
Right, and I understand gaining some weight after the weigh-in, but at least be in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, the rehydration, I always say if you make the weight, you make the weight, man. Whatever happens after, because like these guys are just a different athlete nowadays. Like Edgar Berlanga.
But part of it is just
pounds.
And this is why it makes it difficult to compare modern fighters with old school fighters in terms of who would beat who at what weight class, because the fighters now with these weight classes, each of these weight classes, they're much bigger, because one of the big advances that they've made over the last 30 years is they've perfected the art of the big weight cut and the rapid rehydration. When you look at old Sugar Ray Leonard at welterweight, he was a welterweight. Like if you watch really old fight films, like for the Canadians, go back on YouTube and look at Jose Napoles against Clyde Gray at Maple Leaf Gardens in 1973. World welterweight title fight. Just look at the size of those two.
Size of those guys.
They don't look anything like Jerron Ennis. They don't look anything like.
Jerron. Yeah, you're right. He's a big. Mario Barrios is even a pretty big welterweight.
Yeah, he is a enormous welterweight, and they don't look anything like that. But those guys weighed in, walked around, fought at what they fought at. But that's been one of the big. So if you say, well, do you think Jose Napoles could beat Boots Ennis? Hell no. Because Boots Ennis comes to the ring in probably low 160s, and Jose Napoles is a little skinny guy showing up at 145. There's no way.
Yeah, you're right, man.
So I personally, it's one thing to intentionally take a fighter out of his weight class. So if Tank says, knowing Mario Barrios is now a welterweight, and he says to Mario Barrios, "You got to fight me at lightweight." That's something different.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
But if we agree to the weight, then agree to the weight. And if one guy wants the weights to be normal, then both guys should want the weights to be even, because that's why we have weight classes. And and if you don't like that, don't sign the contract. And then whine about it afterwards.
Yeah, right? I don't like that. Yeah, you got to negotiate, man.
You know what the rules are. You don't see people saying, "Well, if we still have 15-round fights, I would have beat that guy." Well, guess what? We don't have 15-round fights anymore. This is not 1982.
Right.
Yeah, 12 rounds. Don't complain about the length of the fight. Don't complain about the weight. You signed the contract, so don't complain about the weight.
You knew what it was, man.
Yes.
No, that's true. That's true. I don't like when the fighters do that, especially after they lost, man. It's like, don't do that, man. Like, that's why I like Dimitri Bivol. Like, he felt like he won his fight, but he took his loss gracefully, and he said he's coming back, and I truly believe him.
Yeah, let your managers get out there and complain and
do exactly
file protests.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's for. But you as the fighter, you got to take care of business in the ring. We had a big shocker this weekend. Bakhram, Tszyu. Bakhram was a 4-1 underdog, but he stops Tszyu. Tszyu was talking about Crawford a lot and how he wanted to revisit that fight. Well, he's gonna have to do some more thinking about the way he's gonna approach his game again, because two losses back to back. Tszyu's probably gonna have to take a step back.
First of all, got 2 segments in this show focusing on guys from Chechnya.
That's true. Russia as well.
Chechnya is quickly becoming the boxing capital of the world, right? If you watch these fights from Montreal, Imam Katayev, also from Chechnya, Arthur Beterbiev, I think is from near there.
Yeah.
He's from around. If he's from Russia proper, he's still from either Chechnya proper or a part that's close to Chechnya.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
And so I don't know what it is they're doing over there, but
HBO told us when they started covering those guys.
It is a bottomless supply of these cats, man.
Yeah.
It's a bottomless supply of them. Yeah, Tim Tszyu, it's weird. One, remember they tried to bring him back against Virgil Ortiz in August on that big Riyadh season card in Carson, California. And he wasn't ready. Like, he was still healing from that big gash on his head.
Right.
But I did notice that moment early in the fight where they sort of clashed heads and Tim Tszyu started checking to see if he was bleeding. So what I don't know is whether that was physical, like maybe that skin is still sort of brittle and he knows it, or if it's just like a mental block he still has, you know?
Yeah.
But Tszyu, just from a technical and tactical standpoint, you watch that fight, like he was 100% convinced that he was just going to put pressure on Murtazaliev.
Yep. Yeah.
And wear him down. And that was going to be that. And Tim Tszyu really believed in his chin. You know, and I guess he had reason to, you know, like he fought Sebastian Fundora, was bleeding profusely, took all those punches, never went down.
Right.
But there was a part early in the first round where Tim Tszyu took a straight right hand to the face. And his facial expression sort of changed. You could see him start thinking.
Yep. Yeah.
But at the same time, like Tim Tszyu knows one way to fight.
Yeah, just forward. Just coming.
Yes. So you can see him trying to make sense of Murtazaliev's punching power because it was clearly more than he expected. But Tim Tszyu's not a guy that's going to say that's going to be able to shift gears, move, box, tie you up, do all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, you know, and he was just unable to adjust. And Murtazaliev too was hit hard, but was also a very clean boxer. You know, he sort of like if you put Beterbiev and Bivol into one person, you know, obviously not in an absolute sense as powerful as Beterbiev, but you get the point.
Right. Yeah.
He was boxing, but with authority. You know, he gets a lot of leverage on those right hands and a lot of leverage clearly on those left hooks. And Tim Tszyu was just, shell shocked.
Yep, pretty much.
And again, he just looked like a guy who did not have a plan B.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me that I noticed was like he wasn't changing his approach.
No, because all he knows is pressure. All he knows is coming forward.
Yeah, and I probably got to watch some Tim Tszyu fights because the way that Bakhram was landing that left hand told me that they practiced that. Like they saw something in the tape because like it was just way too easy.
Yeah,
it was like as soon as he threw, it was like second nature. He automatically just threw that hook.
Yes,
so they saw something in the tape. So I want to go back and watch it too now myself.
Yeah,
you're right. Drops that hand when he's punching because. It was almost like Garcia and Haney, like the same thing. Like Haney's jabbing and Ryan's hook was coming around way faster.
Yes.
Get his hand back. And Bakhram just sat there and just literally waited for Tszyu to come and boom.
Yeah, it is sort of like a baseball player and the count gets to 2-0 and he's like, I know this guy's gonna throw me a fastball.
Right. Yeah, you're just
has to throw a strike. I'm not taking this pitch, I'm swinging.
Yeah,
that's it. Because you got to get over the plate, and I'm gonna put it in the bleachers. And this is what Murtazaliev did to Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, and Tim said he never really recovered from the first knockdown, and I believe that.
Yeah, you can tell. He was very honest about that. You can tell.
Yeah, I believe that because obviously, like you said, there was no game plan, so he was just fighting on survival instinct at that point. The rest of the fight.
Yeah, and you can see that
hit up that many times, man. Like I think he got knocked down like 5 or 6 times. Like.
Well, that third round, the second round he went down 3 times.
Yeah.
But the last one was right before the bell, and clearly the 3 knockdown rule was not in effect. Yeah. But that third round, I really felt bad for Tim Tszyu.
Yeah.
Because he was too proud to stay down.
Right.
Every time he went down, like his instincts, his heart, his pride told him to get up. I was a little upset at the referee because the referee said, if you don't show me something, I'm going to stop it. I'm like, well, if you're talking, this guy's already been down 4 times. If you're talking, just stop the fight.
Show you. Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing he can do. And Murtazaliev gets right back to pummeling Tszyu, and the referee's just standing there. And I'm just wondering what he's waiting for.
Yeah, I don't. Even his corner too. Like I feel like they should have spared Tszyu. Like
eventually they threw in the towel. Yes,
yeah, man.
And it was strange too. And I think because he was the favorite in real time, I think folks have a hard time processing the fact that he's getting his ass kicked. And you think that because he's the favorite, he's somehow going to get it together.
Gonna come back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And even they gave him an extra minute to recover between rounds because they sent in the doctor to go look in his eyes, all of this. But once he hits the deck that 4th time, you stop the fight. There's no reason. And that was off that last left hook. There's no reason to even count, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. He should just waved it off, and
because he's not going to get up and like
no.
So you can say he has the puncher's chance and blah, 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 blah. But like, this is a dangerous sport. You can't always play percentages like that. If it's a competitive fight overall, I can see it.
Right. Yeah.
This fight was one-way traffic.
Yeah.
And he went straight down, and only his pride got him up before the 10 count. No reason to let that fight continue. And there was that last 20 or so seconds of the fight where I was really worried for Tszyu's safety, and now he's got to go regroup.
Yeah.
But his challenge again is that he's not big on plan Bs. He's big on pressure.
Like to take big fights.
Yeah, and he's big on pressure.
Yeah.
And so he got in this situation here where pressure didn't work because the guy had hit harder.
No doubt, man. And like I think that was the thing that surprised you because Bakhram, he hasn't been knocking out some of the top level guys. So Tszyu probably thought, he's definitely not gonna come in here and knock me out.
Yeah.
Like you said, when he got hit, it was probably just like a shell shock. But I think it was also probably the Fedora fight as well. Started to play in his mind. You're coming off a loss, man, and you lost your titles. He knows this is probably it. So there's a lot of pressure inside of him as well.
Yeah.
And that name that he carries too.
Yes. And I want to say there was a bit of a coaching change. I think they said this was the first fight where his dad was in the corner.
Right.
And it's often the fighter makes a trainer and it doesn't matter who's in the corner, but just as often, like, you start changing the things that got you to where you were. Start changing the process, and the result changes. Any or all of these things could have been at work with Tszyu.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
until he explains it to us in as many words, and he might not even know exactly what went wrong.
No, I don't think so. Like, they interviewed him too after the fight, and you could just see he was not in it at all. He was looking down.
Well, that's a problem I have with fight broadcasts is trying to hold coherent interviews with people who clearly have concussions. You don't see in any other sport. Like,
exactly.
In football, I get banged in the head. They bring me to the blue tent. Whatever it is, they're not sticking a microphone in my face. I'm not able to say anything. You know? With boxing, you get knocked out cold. They wake you up. Smelling salts.
Come tell us what happened.
Yeah. What? It is insane. So for Tszyu's sake, this with me in boxing, like, I don't ever feel like any fighter has anything to prove. Once you've won a world title and whatever, it's like if Tszyu from here wants to retire, I'm with it. If from here he wants to set his sights lower and say, I just want to beat up guys in Australia, that's fine. He doesn't have to prove anything to the rest of us, because the reality is he's absorbed 2 brutal defeats back to back.
Yeah. And the last one, you can say, he didn't need to take that fight. Like, that was Keith Thurman backed out last minute, and now you're fighting a whole different person. You're going from a guy who's your size to now a 6'6" giant that you got to prepare for in 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, he sort of did have to take that fight because Amazon Prime and PBC had a lot invested in
Yes.
That
Yeah.
first pay-per-view going off.
Yeah.
On schedule.
A lot of guys got paid that night, so thanks to Tszyu.
Yes.
So he could that's what a lot of people don't look at either. I feel like Tszyu.
He took one for the team.
Yes, he definitely did, man, and he's the one who suffered for it for the rest of the team, the rest of the promotion. But in this one here, PBC really didn't do him any favors, in my opinion, because they didn't do their homework on Bakhram, or they didn't do their homework enough on Tim. I think they could have got him in a better position.
Yeah, but I think the motive there was, here's a 154-pound titleist that seems beatable.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep.
Right? Like, just got put through the ringer against Fundora. You ain't signing up for that again.
Yeah.
Probably ain't beating Crawford.
Yeah.
So who's next?
Yep.
This guy who seems like he hasn't beaten anyone on your level. And I think that seemed like it, to the extent that you can even call winning a world title easy. That one seemed a little bit easier, seemed more available. But a credit to Bakhram Murzalia, because he came prepared. Like you said, he did his homework and he knew exactly which power punches would be available to him.
Yeah. Yep.
And once that opening presented itself, he capitalized.
Yeah,
he did his job.
Yeah, exactly. And he's gonna be given the opportunities now that Tszyu was gonna get, some bigger fights. And I'm excited to see what's gonna come next, because 54 is just so from deep division, man. It's the best.
An exciting division,
in my opinion. And it doesn't have all the glamour names, but it just has enough competitors to where anybody could really win.
Yep.
Any night. I think that's what's exciting about it. Even Crawford. We guys see how Madrimov does against Boacek on this Usyk and Fury card, but what if Boacek blasts out Madrimov? Then now we're looking at Crawford, can you hang with the 54s?
It's funny. It's only 7 pounds, but it makes a huge difference, as you saw with Crawford last time out.
Mm-hmm.
I
think they wear bigger gloves too. I think slightly bigger.
Yes, I think that's where you make the transition from 8 to 10.
Yeah,
8 ounce to 10 ounce. Yes.
So Crawford's not the biggest guy, wearing bigger gloves now.
Yeah, and it all adds up, right? And the thing is, especially at the world class level like that, that's where the difference is on the margins.
Yes,
1% here, 1% there makes all the difference.
Yeah. So do you think Tszyu is going to recover from this, or do you think we're going to see him kind of be bumped down to a mid-tier 54-pounder instead of an elite?
That's a good question. Because he has a name and he has a following, you can always put him at the top of a card.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But just for Tszyu, physically, mentally, emotionally, again, 2 brutal beatings back to back, 2 bruising losses back to back. He's going to have to take some time and put some work into recovering. And what Tszyu looks like on the other side of that, hard to say. It's hard to predict.
Yeah.
I just hope he takes the time to get healthy in every way.
Right. Yeah. He's got to really sit down and recover, man.
Because it's easy for us to forget. You have a different perspective because you grew up with the sport. It's all around you. But it's very easy for fans and the media to lose sight of how dangerous, how brutal this sport can be.
Man, that's why I hate when people call fighters bums, because I'm like, man, I can just go in the ring and just be hit. I'll just get hit hard.
Yeah.
And you're change your whole perspective on the way you view this.
Yes. Sport. So this is not Roger Federer recovering from a loss to Rafael Nadal. You know what I mean? Because Rafael Nadal did not break Roger Federer's ribs.
Right.
And so when you say recover from a loss, recover in every way. And it takes time, it takes work, it takes effort.
Yeah, mental too, because it's a lonely sport, man. This is the one sport where you can't say it was his fault, he missed the shot.
Yes.
Or that
can't
guy
blame teammates.
He was offside. He blew a play here. You can't say that. It's all on you.
You can't call timeout. Literally, the only way to get timeout is if the guy punches you in the balls, and then you don't even get to call it. It's up to the referee.
Right. Exactly.
If the referee didn't see it, there is no timeout. You just got hit in the balls, and that's that.
Yep.
There's This is not a regular sport. And so when I talk about, people recovering, you mean it in every single way. I just don't assume that you come back from a brutal fight like that the same.
No. And that's why I think a lot of people are worried for Errol Spence, because he's coming back against Fundora after the Crawford loss. And we're kind of like looking at it like, man, like
the Crawford loss and 2 car crashes.
Yeah, I know, Spence, you got that whole line that I don't take tune-ups, but you can do it this time, buddy. We will allow you to have
this is the thing about,
like, you can have this one.
This is the flip side when I talk about pride and like having nothing to prove. Like Errol Spence, an Olympian, he's been a great champion for so long. And the fact that he came back from that car crash, like he doesn't owe us anything. Exactly. He doesn't have to prove it to us. He doesn't have to prove it to himself. And if he wants to, man, take a tune-up. Just as you said, there's no shame in doing that, especially since it was 15 months from the Ugas fight to Crawford. And now we're on 15 more months and counting since the Crawford fight. And if you're going to fight that infrequently, especially, this deep in his career, and all these fights are high-level fights, he doesn't have to prove it to us that he can get right back into a tough fight. Like he
I
can, he could use a tune-up, truthfully.
Yeah. Like Errol Spence, a great champion. I got nothing bad to say about the guy. I wish he'd be more active. But man, when you get flown from your car like that, the fact that you just got back in the ring, speaks volumes about who you are, man. You are truly a warrior.
Yeah, and we have to Errol Spence talks a lot slower since that car crash.
Yeah, you could. Definitely, you could see the damage.
And so there's some physical damage we don't know if it ever healed properly.
Yeah.
And the problem too is that in boxing, when you lose a couple fights toward the end of your career, like that's what people remember until like 20 years after you retire.
Yeah.
I think of Errol Spence, when I think even just like post car crash Errol Spence, he beat up Yordenis Ugas, who was really good.
And
I think it's easy to lose sight of how good both those guys are, how good they both were at that point. And that achievement, coming back from that car crash, beating Garcia, that's the closest he's ever going to have to a tune-up fight, is beating Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
But then to look vulnerable for a second against Ugas and then come back and win that fight the way he did, that's an incredible achievement. But it sort of gets lost in all this other stuff. So he got steamrolled against Crawford. Fundora, I don't like that matchup for Spence, to tell you the truth, especially in his 54 pound debut.
Yeah, your first debut. Yeah, I don't like it either.
To fight somebody that awkward with that much leverage. And this is where you risk, if he gets 2 losses in a row, fight fans sort of writing him off as not just old, because everybody gets old, but sort of overrated, blah, blah, blah. When, when really we should just focus on tell people what they should focus on. What I prefer to focus on is what these guys were at their best. And yes, it's always going to be sort of a tragic footnote to his career that we never really got to see him at his tippy top because he crashed his car.
Yep. Yeah, twice, I think. Yep.
Yes, he had the big one, and then there was another one.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's unfortunate because that's what a lot of people say about the Crawford fight, but I don't think it's any bad thing losing to Crawford. I feel like if somehow Crawford can win all the belts 54, I'm stacking his resume up against Mayweather, because
100%.
Mayweather never did that. Never undisputed 1 division. This guy's done 3. It would be 3 if he does 54.
Right.
So that'd be him breaking his own history 1.
Yes.
And that's an incredible feat in a 4-belt era where
it's like a lot harder. And it's a testament to your manager and your promoter's skill as much as anything, because it's so hard to get all these promoters on the same page.
Exactly.
To get anyone undisputed.
But he's lucky though. He's got the money man behind him, Turkey Al Sheikh. So he'll make a lot of these guys rich along the way.
Yes.
I think that's the benefit of fighting Crawford right now. A lot of those guys are looking at just financial gain.
Yeah, and listen, it helps to have a wealthy sponsor.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's kind of funny because if you look at some Crawford old clips, I think it was the first time they went into negotiating with Spence. He says, "I have somebody who can do the fight." And at the time, I thought it was BLK Prime because that's where Crawford ended up fighting. But now that I'm looking at the picture, I think it was Turki Al-Sheikh that was
going
to be the one.
No, because he said it was a hedge fund guy.
Oh, okay. Well, Turki's kind of a hedge fund. He's talking about buying out all the promoters.
No, he is. No. Because if it was Turki Al-Sheikh, that fight would have happened. Because if Turki Al-Sheikh says he has money,
he didn't want it. Al Heyman wanted the fight essentially.
Well, also, but if it's about money, like if Turki Al-Sheikh says he has the money, then he has the money.
No, yeah.
Whereas if just some guy calls Crawford and says, "I have the money," he might not have the money.
Yeah, that's true. True.
We're not sure BLK Prime ever actually had the money.
I don't think it was them ever, but I just feel like Spence took too much time out the ring before he fought Crawford. He should have went and fought somebody like Crawford did. That's where Al Heyman failed Spence. I think you should have went and got him a fight, and then come back to
except
now the fight's bigger.
Except
everybody's seen them.
Except Spence didn't want any tune-ups. What can you can't tell Spence anything.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's where his see, that's the thing about Spence. I want every fighter to be like Spence, to be honest.
What, stubborn and no tune-ups?
Just want the fights, man. Man.
But at the same time, we talk about the ways we perceive fighters has changed. So anytime someone takes a fight that's less than a super elite marquee 50-50 fight, we say this guy's fighting a bum. Look how people are talking about Tank for fighting Lamont Roach.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Go back and look at Sugar Ray Leonard's record. He fought Hearns, he fought Duran, he fought Benitez, but he also fought Bruce Finch.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He also fought Larry Bonds. People that weren't famous, that weren't all world, just solid fighters. Like people, they would be their generation's version of a Lamont Roach, probably a couple notches below a Lamont Roach, right? But now we just expect people to take the hardest fights all the time.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate that I grew into that, but because I watched Oscar, and Oscar didn't do that either. Like Oscar would give you.
Sure, he did. He fought Joey Gamache.
Yeah.
He fought the guys in between. He fought what's his face?
Yeah,
Arturo Gatti.
Yeah,
he'd fight like the less tough fights in between.
Right. He'd give you the big pay-per-view, then he'd give you a couple HBOs, and then you get another big pay-per-view, which I think that's how it should be. I don't think every fight needs to be on pay-per-view right now, but it's just weird seeing every fight for $90 or $20. It's like it makes no sense to me because it's like, man,
pay-per-view fights, they make sense for two reasons. One is the fight is so big that you can charge a premium for it.
Mm-hmm.
And two is that the fight is its appeal is so narrow but deep that you can charge people for it. So and then everything else in between is just the fights you see on TV. Right. So giving you a way back example, 2017, when Brandon Cook from Ajax, Ontario, and he flew over to Kazakhstan to fight Kanat Islam.
Yeah.
And that fight was a $5 pay-per-view on Fight TV. And I paid $5. Woke up, at 7 a.m. on a Saturday to watch this fight, right?
Yeah.
So is that a huge fight? No. Is that a $60, $70, $80 pay-per-view? No. But to locals to people who are plugged into the local Toronto boxing scene, that's a fight worth paying a little bit of money for.
$5 for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you put him on TSN, you're like, I'm not going to pay extra I'm not going to pay TSN paper. I'm not going to pay a pay-per-view fee to TSN.
Right.
To watch
Yes. Yeah. That's
right?
a different. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So it's at those two ends of the spectrum where it makes sense.
Yeah. Which is why I think it was AJ and Dubois was $20, and like I'm okay with that because Anthony Joshua is a huge star.
Yeah.
Dubois is kind of coming into his own, and I mean I don't really know anybody else on the card outside of Hamza Shiraz, but it's UK, so I get it. It's in London. They're gonna have a lot of UK based fighters. It makes perfect sense. 90,000 people. You want to cater to them. You're not catering to the North American audience.
Well, one, yeah, it's a fight like that is a $20 pay-per-view. It's not you can't with a straight face charge. It's sort of the flip side of what happens with the North American fights, because a lot of these North American fights that cost $80, $90 on pay-per-view over here are like 20 pounds in England.
Yeah,
it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the pay-per-view cost was over there, but yeah, over here $20, perfect.
Yeah.
And they made all their money. They made a lot of money at the gate because they got 90,000 people.
Right. Yeah. That's impressive, man.
That arena, right? And so it's and what always cracks me up though is that these fights were on DAZN, and when DAZN hit the scene in 2018, first started broadcasting fights, their whole premise was that pay-per-view was dead.
And just kind of like PBC when they started too. Everything was actually on cable.
No, but they also had pay-per-view events. They had a bunch of stuff on cable, but that was all supposed to funnel you towards these big pay-per-view events. The DAZN did something different. The DAZN said there is no more pay-per-view. You just pay your monthly fee or your yearly fee to this service, and you'll get all your NFL, all your cricket or whatever it was they're showing, all your soccer, and all your fights. And then very quickly they figured out, especially in the US, because they didn't have a lot of rights in the US. All they had at the beginning was boxing. Okay. Like, oh shit, there's a 1.3 million boxing fans in the US. And we can't charge them what we charge Canadians to subscribe to DAZN, because Canadians are getting NFL. These guys ain't getting NFL. But we also cannot pay what it costs to keep Canelo on the air.
Yeah, Canelo
based on these subscription fees. So we got to go back to pay-per-view. And then the pay-per-view just kind of came back, and it hasn't gone away, even though this is the company that told us when they hit the scene, we are going to get rid of pay-per-view. Pay-per-view is over because we're here. And we're right back to pay-per-view.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, I know, it does add up. And no other sports fan base really deals with this. And again, we were talking about this offline when football fans, when I hear football fans and basketball fans sniff at casual fan. Oh, you're a casual fan. You better be happy for the casual fans.
Yeah.
The casual fans pay the bills because there's so many of them. Right. Advertising covers the cost, because if you don't have casual fans, what you have is the Super Bowl on pay-per-view.
Yes.
NBA finals on pay-per-view.
Exactly.
You football fans don't know what it's like, the way boxing fans do, to have to search for a stream for a huge event.
Yep.
Have to wake up at 4, 5, 6 in the morning to watch a huge event, like to watch Naoya Inoue, to watch Joe Parker fight Andy Ruiz back in the day, and they were in New Zealand. I had to wake up at 3 in the morning. Like, these football fans don't know what this is like.
Right.
Don't sniff at the casual fans, because the casual fans would keep this on regular TV at normal times of day.
Yes, yeah. Having the TV it's a wonder. It's wonders. Even
basketball fans take it for granted, man.
Even they don't really have the TV because it's ESPN Plus. They only get a few events on the actual
regular ESPN.
Yeah. So
and ESPN also they're trying hard to like funnel people towards ESPN Plus, because they're looking into the future and seeing a generation full of cable cord cutters.
Everything's going that way. Subscription.
So even tonight, we're recording on a Monday night. There's a Monday night football game. One of them is on big ESPN, and one of them, the Chargers and the Cardinals, is only on ESPN Plus.
Oh,
so
okay.
They are trying to herd people over there.
Yeah, it seems like in the NFL they don't care, because they get big money for these deals, man. These deals are billions of dollar deals, so it's a little different, man.
Although it wouldn't surprise me in a few years if they started putting the Super Bowl on pay-per-view.
Really? Oh shoot. You make a lot of American fans mad if they do that.
Yeah, would complain and then they would buy it.
Yeah. No doubt. Especially people who teams are in it, they're definitely buying it.
Yep. People would complain because they feel like football is their right. It's their right to have as much football as possible for free. But eventually, and it's as much as other sports make fun of boxing, eventually someone's going to look over and be like, what happens in boxing? What happens every year with the Super Bowl of boxing, whatever that is?
Right.
Whatever fight, whatever matchup that is. So 2 years ago was Crawford and Spence. That was the Super Bowl of boxing.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when we put it on pay-per-view? We put these other ones on free TV to build it up. And once we get you there, listen, from the beginning, we got you in a buying funnel. And we're going to funnel you towards the turnstile that you're going to pay. So it would not surprise me, as much as these other sports make fun of boxing, would not surprise me in about 5 years to see the NFL, NBA do that in finals.
And I think you're right, man, because even Dana White did it to an extent. Like when he made pay-per-view in the UFC, he made sure those guys don't get the same cuts as the boxers. Like they don't receive the same percentage, not even close.
Yeah, because what he never wanted was some big star to become to him what Oscar De La Hoya was to Bob Arum, what Floyd Mayweather became to Bob Arum.
Yep. Those guys were able to leave on their own.
And also, well, Oscar more so than Floyd, because I don't know if Floyd is even promoting anymore, but Oscar got a whole company.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what Dana White did not need was George St. Pierre taking a bunch of $30 million paydays, stacking them up, and then saying, I'm going to start signing fighters. Come fight for GSP promotion.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to mess with them
anymore over here. Yeah, no. Hey, he's kind of had one of them kind of slip like that. McGregor, you could say, in a way. Because he's got the bare knuckle thing now.
Yeah, or they were mad about, pardon me?
I think he went over to boxing. He figured out, like, I'm not doing this UFC no more because that room over there in boxing is way more appealing than this room over here.
Yeah, well, he got a $30 million guarantee to fight Floyd Mayweather. And after that, like, it's hard to tell anyone what to do. If somebody gave me $30 million to do the thing, not even like the thing I'm best at, to do the thing like I'm fourth best at.
Yeah.
I would take it, even if I embarrassed myself on the job. I would take my $30 million, and after that, you wouldn't be able to tell me anything. And so, that fight really highlighted the difference in the structure of the two businesses, and the ways in which the UFC has tried to pay fighters just enough to keep them around, but also looked for ways to suppress their income. Right?
You're right, man. It's sad.
They can't go out and get their own kit sponsors.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
They can't hang those banners over the octagon anymore. All this stuff, and that costs them a ton of money. All you get is your performance, your baseline guarantee plus your win bonus. That's that. But because they in effect have a monopoly in the U.S., the fighters don't have a lot of choices. And then they get mad, like when Francis Ngannou leaves and starts boxing and goes and fights for PFL and act like he's disloyal or whatever. But like, you got one life. This is a dangerous sport. You got very few chances to make as much money as possible. So you go do it. Big presence, man. His $1 million plus to go fight Tyson Fury or get knocked out by AJ.
Right. Make a boatload of money.
Yeah.
And, the PFL saying, don't worry, we'll be here when you're ready.
Yeah.
And you got a percentage of the company.
Yeah.
Like, that's a you can't turn that down, man. I don't know how people look at it and say and be mad for him. Like, they should be happy for him.
Yeah, and this goes for boxing and MMA. Like, when I hear fans or journalists complain about fighters wanting a lot of money or fighters getting too much money, like, there's no such thing as too much money.
No.
Because no sport is as dangerous as either of these two.
Yeah.
So if as a fighter, and I've only ever been fighting for 5-figure paydays, and then somehow I luck into a 7-figure payday, I'm not overpaid.
No.
I'm actually getting a paycheck commensurate with the risk I'm taking. So
Yeah, that's why
remember that was the
I've
big.
never been mad at these young guys for asking for more.
That was the big complaint about Al Heyman when PBC hit the scene like 2014, 15.
Yeah.
You know, and other promoters would say he's paying too much for these fighters. He's overpaying all these. Well, that's not his problem.
Yeah, he moved the bar up a bit.
For one, I want fighters to get paid because the sport is dangerous. Make as much money as you can, and preferably get out before you get hurt. That's it.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know, like you said, like the casual fans. Every year the NBA salary cap goes up, man.
Yep.
Like I saw Jalen Green just got $106 deal for 3 years or whatever, and I'm like, he's not even a premier player.
The salary cap goes up, and it's the same number of guys on every team. So, and that money has to go somewhere because there's also a salary floor.
Right. What's going on, Edwin? Round one sports talk. What's going on, man?
Edwin, what's happening?
How you doing?
You just came in, did you?
Huh?
You just jumped in?
Yeah, no, I just jumped in right now. I saw one of your guys in the chat want to ask him exactly what happened with Tszyu in the fight and what he saw and the result and of the fight and stuff. And I wanted to also come in and touch in on that because as I was doing my show earlier today, I started touching up on something that I saw in the fight, and I wasn't sure if a lot of fans would relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't prove it to be true, but there's this thing in boxing where a fighter will sustain an injury in a fight, and he can get a concussion or something, and in the next fight, he can, potentially be in the same situation, and then all of a sudden think that same thing is happening. For instance, when in the first round, when Tszyu and him clash heads, if you go back and you watch the fight, Tszyu started wiping his face with his glove.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
You were? He was.
Yes,
he was
sir,
looking,
I want to hear your perspective on it.
All right. He was looking at it like for the blood, and then when he went to touch hands, he wiped himself again. Right, which indicated even though he saw there was no blood, he thought he was feeling blood coming down. That's the impression I got. So that could have been, it sparked an urgency in Tszyu, and that's why he was so aggressive in the fight, coming forward and taking those chances. Because in the Sebastian Fundora fight, Tszyu said, I'm afraid they're going to stop the fight because of the cut after the 4th round. So his sense of urgency had to increase. And it was the same kind of scenario early in the fight, another clash of heads. And I think instinctively, Tszyu's body told him a sense of urgency, apply pressure. And he got sloppy and he got caught. At first, I thought that murder chick, what they're calling him today, right? I thought that his camp, that's what they're calling him. I thought that his camp really studied Tszyu and saw a flaw in his, and when he leans like this, Tszyu got
brother. That's what I was saying. It was landing way too flush.
Yo, he got caught clean so good he didn't see the punch.
Yep.
He didn't know what hit him. So that when he went to throw that same punch again, he threw it again because he didn't know what hit him. He didn't know to make an adjustment. He didn't know that, wait a minute, I did this mistake and he hit me like that. In the moment, the corner was probably stunned for what they were seeing, too, as well. They were trying to give him a chance, a fighter's chance. I felt like I never seen nothing like that when the referee stepped in with the flashlight with no cut, just checking your eyes.
That was very strange.
I was like, yo, did he just buy Tszyu 30 seconds?
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
Here's 10 grand. I just bought you 30 seconds. Step here, look this way. Okay, now referee, you do your thing, and then fight continue. So they tried. It's just that his legs, he never fully recovered from the shot. So and then yeah, he got destroyed, and that was shocking to watch. I can't say that I anticipated something like that from all the praises leading into the fight. I was giving Tszyu, and I still do. You know, you lose the fight, you get caught. You know, I always thought that Tszyu was a class act in defeat when he lost against Fundora. He never made any excuses. He said, "Fair play, hats off to you." You know, and I always took him as a class act. You know, I think he'll rebound from this, and perhaps Charlo Twin will come back, and you know, he's technically the real champion of the division. He never lost.
He never lost his belt. Yeah,
Charlo. No, you got to beat the champ. You got to beat him. You got to beat him. So his name, his credibility, you know, who he is as a fighter. You know, who knows? Who knows what's next for Tszyu? I don't know. I thought maybe Errol Spence Jr. would be a name, but two guys coming off losses. They got big names, but
they got names though. Yeah, they got value.
They got names, but like at least you want, you know, the criticism. Look how the boxing world is, right? Where so much scrutiny,
terrible.
Right? It is so terrible that the best fighters we have today are being given names as titles as Cherry Pick and Ducks. You're calling Tank Davis. You're calling Terrence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, all the top. So please tell me where are the group of guys that are on the other level that are to your standards that doesn't get called these names. Please educate me. Where are these guys? If the best that we have are being scrutinized with every fight that they take, including the Tank Davis situation. Look, I get it. Tank put himself in a bad situation, little bad promoting. The narrative was back then, we don't need belts to get the bag type shit. Now he's grown up a little, got himself away from them people. He's serious in his career, signed a 6-fight deal with with Prime, and Tank really wants the good fights, but Loma opted out. If we got the Shakur fight, I'm glad we didn't get it, because guess what? Shakur breaks his hand. And had it been signed with the Tank, what they would have said about Shakur then. Now, so when he exhausts all his options and gets Lamar Roach, boy, is he given scrutiny. Because now I can't blame the fans, because the evidence is stacking up because of what he did in his past. They have the right to say it about him. I understand the situation he's in now where he's more serious, you know, but the evidence, your career is what it is, Tank. You did this kind of to yourself, you know, with all these kind of fights. Yep. So, you know,
listen, there's a certain segment of the boxing public that are going to complain about Tank Davis no matter what he does, no matter who he beats. And the thing is, Tank has made some bad decisions. They're easy to scrutinize. So Tank's the one that hit the person with his car. No one else did that. Tank's the one that got the lawyer off the billboard that didn't think to call the judge. Remember when Tank was on house arrest?
Oh, right.
And he was staying at the condo instead of at the coach's house. Like, all you got to do is call the judge and they'll let you do it.
Yep.
He didn't call the judge. He did it. He had to spend the summer in jail. But like, you look at his resume, it's just a bunch of undefeated dudes that Tank has put to sleep.
Yeah,
and you put someone to sleep, and they say he cherry picked. Tank knocked out Mario Barrios, and this is the thing: like, people want to complain that Tank takes unfair advantage of the weight classes. Tank's this little 5'5" guy, went up to Mario Barrios' weight class.
Yeah,
put him to sleep.
Yeah,
yet we're gonna complain about Tank playing games.
And these are the best fighters.
Yeah, so this is the point. Is like certain people you are never ever gonna please, especially if you are Tank Davis. You're never gonna please them. He's never gonna please them. They are just congenitally built to complain, and that's just what they're gonna do. Tank could beat Lomachenko and Shakur on the same night at the same time, like a handicap match, and they complain.
Right, like I say a lot. You know, I got into this because of the love of the sport, you know, the beauty I see in boxing, you know, and I try my best to, sometimes I got to catch myself. What are you doing? Are you tearing down boxing? Are you reporting it? Are you going into the narrative and you letting this fan talk you into bashing another guy you've actually never met. You weren't in that room, but you and him are arguing here passionately about a sport that you guys actually watch. What are we doing?
Mhm.
You know, I would love to see Lamont Roach and Tank Davis mix it up. You know why? For multiple reasons. When Tank Davis was criticized for not fighting Black American fighters or American fighters, and he was knocking out all the nationality, he was trying to tell them, look, I don't want to do this to my own people, right? As he got older, he said to himself, if I'm going to give anybody else $1, right? And I'm going to put $1 in somebody's, I'm going to put it in a USA guy's in pocket. Not a Russian, not a Chinese, Japan dude. So now that he fights not one, but his second Black African fighter in a row, they give him shit when they said, oh, you're not fighting them, so you're scared of them. So now he fights them, so he can't win.
No. The only complaint I would have about this fight is that a guy from DC versus a guy from Baltimore, that's a beltweight fight. I wish they could have that fight in DC.
Doing, yeah.
But like, but the thing about Tank Davis is he has proven too that he can go different places and sell. Certain people, you need to have them in their hometown, or else people ain't coming out.
Proven that.
Tank is not that dude. Wherever you want to put him, he will sell out.
Yeah, and I always felt like, okay, if Tank is this attraction guy, then why not make him the stadium fighter? Make him the Inoue of USA.
Mm-hmm.
Put him in put him in Dallas. Put him in the stadium, in Jerry's World.
To come out and see him.
I think they would. I think Tank can draw. I think like he's got fans that he can fight a garbage man and they'll come watch. Like that's just how
they had wanted to put Tank versus Garcia.
They should have did that in Las Vegas Stadium where the Raiders play.
Tank wanted that.
Yeah.
But
Garcia wasn't selling.
Yes, and there was some combination of Showtime and
Uncle
Al said, hey, keep this in T-Mobile because you can sell more tickets at the football stadium, but we can make more money.
We can make that's true. You can run the ticket prices up high.
But remember, just coming into the Tank fight, right? Ryan Garcia fought, Oscar De La Hoya put it, and they had to block off half the stadium because it was empty. They were selling the tickets for $25 on fight night. Remember that? And then when Tank and him agreed to it, Tank was going to take a tune-up fight, which he fought Hector Lewis, right?
Yeah.
And then Ryan Garcia was supposed to take a tune-up, but Ryan opted out of his tune-up and he went right into the Tank fight.
Yeah.
Remember? So during the times of the negotiation, you know, they wanted to probably put it in a big this or that, but they were also testing the water. Remember, these guys, promoters, are putting up this money blindly, thinking, and this is when Tank was, and had they known that Tank was going to pop off like that and sell like that, they're probably looking around going, damn it, we should have got the bigger place. You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, so I look at the Crawford one, BMO Stadium in Carson.
Yeah.
Bro, that one was huge, magical. I think
they gave away a lot of tickets to that card though too.
Yeah, I think Tank could have filled that one. He could have filled that one. Like, and you give it the same flair, you give it the Eminem performance, all that stuff. It's
but that's the thing about Tank. He don't need
he doesn't need that.
He doesn't need Eminem.
He doesn't.
He is the show.
Yeah, exactly.
He is the closest thing we have to like late 80s Mike Tyson in the sense that you tune in.
Yes.
Because you think he's going to do something explosive, and no matter his fight, he's less aggressive. So like in terms of like the actual tactics, it's different. But you know, every Tank Davis fight, there's that tension, you know, the first 3, 4, 5 rounds as he's just building, and he is the show. You don't need a washed up rapper from the 90s. And I'm a guy that grew up on 90s rap, you know.
Yeah.
So if you got like, I don't know, Ed OG and Master Ace, I would be very happy. But no, you don't need all that. You know what I mean? And again, I think he's another guy. He could retire at the same time undefeated and underappreciated because of the way people complain so much, and they're so caught up on complaining they cannot see like this genius of a boxer in plain sight right in front of them. And it's a shame.
Yeah.
I the when I really came to find out how special Tank is, it wasn't any of his fights with Leo Santa Cruz or that vicious knockout. The fight that really set him apart for me was a very basic fight, the one with Mario Barrio. Let me tell you
That was a
something
good
right
fight.
now.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something right now. No, it's just what he did. This man is 5'5". He moved up to 140. When he walked in the ring, I was joking. I said, "Look at Tank Davis. He looks like a hamster that put food in his mouth. His cheeks were this big. His belly was round. His arms were round. He was so fat. He was blimped up." And I said, "There's no way Tank Davis is going to win this fight and perform like he did at 130 or 135. Look how fat he is." I was telling my brother, I was going, "Wow, he looks out of shape." And boy, let me tell you, that man didn't miss a beat.
Nope.
He was on point. His fucking movement was on point. When I was watching him, I was kind of in awe. I knew he was losing the fight, but I wasn't nervous at no point. His facial spread, like Tank, every round, he was sitting there like this. He looked like he had a secret and only he knew it, right? But it was the way he pulled it off and the speed and the cat-like reflexes. It was like it didn't affect, you don't know how bad that affects fighter. Did you see Danny fight against Laura?
Yeah.
How bad was that coming into a new weight division?
That was pretty bad.
You know, guys move up just one weight division and fare miserably. That's not easy to do. And you can visibly see that Tank wasn't in the best of shape. And this, I was like, he's special. He's special. Not every man can do that.
He is. It was the Isaac Cruz for me that made me see that, because he had to adjust. Like, his hand was hurt, and I don't know what people saw and thinking that Isaac Cruz won that fight, but Tank beat him up, man. Tank beat him up over the post with one hand. So I don't know why we want to see the rematch. If he has two hands, he's just gonna stop him. As big as Isaac Cruz has a bat, like, I think he's stopping, but Isaac Cruz, you know, he's a brute, man. He's got that strong head.
I think Jose Valenzuela is
I think it was
stop.
Tank that said he hurt his hand on his head. So
right, hit him because he was shorter than him for the first time. He fought a shorter guy. That was the first short guy Tank ever probably fought in his life in pro boxing. You know, So his punch angles were off, and he kept punching him in the top of the forehead. Broke his hand. Yeah,
but I agree with you guys. Like, doesn't matter what Tank Davis does. There's always going to be people that are going to say he's not this, not that. He's a great boxer, man. I think the only thing I wanted him to see was fight Devin Haney and Tszyu. Those are the only dudes I wanted to see him fight, to be honest. I feel like if he cleans those guys, obviously, I think Shakur fight will happen. But if you could catch those guys before they move up again, because I think they will, that would just cement everything for me, at least. I would be like, yeah, Tank's number one, because he beat the other four kings in his weight.
Perhaps what's happening to Tank is what happens to all our goats and legends. You win too much, and the fans will turn on you.
Yeah. Except for one guy, Floyd. He didn't really care about none of that.
No, the fans turned on Floyd. He was always the villain. Tom Brady won too much. They turned on him. Michael Jordan won too much. They turned on him. You win too much. You know, they love you when you're coming up and you're that underdog and that guy that beat the odds and that story, and you're winning. Then all of a sudden, too many microphones in your face and too many times them hearing you say, "I'm the fucking man. I'm the best." And they'll slowly be like, you know what? They'll turn on you.
Yeah. Everybody likes the Rocky story, man. You need the come up guy. Everybody loves that. I mean, Bakhram, like, we talking about him today because of what he did to Tszyu. You know, they got the rematch with Espinosa and Robeisy next month. You know, Espinosa's he's turned into a story of his own. He might be the best 26-pounder in my opinion.
I think he stopped Robeisy this
crazy.
time.
You think he stopped Robeisy?
Early.
Oh, jeez. I don't know,
You know
man.
why? You know why I think that? Because Robeisy hit him with his best shots. Robeisy emptied out the gas tank in that fight, and he took the fight out of Robeisy's face. I saw fear at the end of that. I saw it slip away from him. I saw him Espinosa will himself back in the fight, and I saw him just break Robeisy's down, bro. And when
Here's
you
the thing
beat a man
about
like that you can take him the second time I fight you, come on, bro.
here's
I
the thing
beat you
about
like that the first time.
here's the thing about Robeisy. He's a brilliant boxer, and I will always give him credit for adjusting to the professional game. You know, he turned pro and he had those trainers in Tampa that really didn't really know what they were doing. And he lost his pro debut because he didn't know how to fight like a professional. Hooked up with Ismael Salas, and Ismael Salas brought the professional out of him and merged, you know, this great amateur with professional style fighting, and sort of turned this cutie pie fighter into like a home run hitter, you know. But Robeisy's fatal flaw is that Robeisy got to fight at Robeisy's pace. And so against guys like Isaac Dogbe or whoever, you know, they let him kind of cruise in between these sequences when he's tattooing.
Right.
But this other cat, Espinosa, just didn't give Robeisy time to breathe, didn't give him time to breathe, didn't give him room to think. Robeisy hit him with his best shot just to get some breathing room.
Distance.
But he can't fight at his pace. And if he can't fight at his pace, it's a lot tougher for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree, man. I think it's gonna be a good fight though. Robeisy. Definitely.
It'll be fun while it lasts, but again, it's just it's Robeisy when he doesn't have, you know, if he can't take a little walk around the ring or whatever. And if my mother-in-law just walking, hey, if he can't fight at the pace that he wants to fight at, if you make him fight faster than he wants to fight, it's a much more difficult assignment for him.
that speaks to ring generalship and ring IQ. When Espinosa didn't let him get comfortable, didn't allow him to take those breathers in between when after he throws his sequence of punches, Espinosa kept coming underneath his guard and tapping that body and applying a lot of pressure, fighting going backwards when you're not used to fighting backwards. And in your head, you're probably saying, I hit him with everything in the kitchen sink. And this guy is still coming. He's got a smile on his face. It can discourage you as a fighter. But those situations, you'll learn from them with each fight and more experience. So, I mean, the fight can go either way. Robeisy can learn from that, learn where he went wrong, know how to manage the fight a little bit better, and box when he needs to and fight when he needs to. And he can identify those key moments. He could solidify a win, yes. But if the fight continues, you know, I'm fresh off the last, you know, watching Espinosa come out and really set himself as a champion on the title defense. Like he really fought. He didn't fight like a guy that just, you know, like has a low record. You know, he didn't fight like that. He fought like he felt like I'm the champion. And I just think a lot of that confidence and beating and happened to come back the way he came back, being down like that. You know, it just if I had to like tip the scale in a little, I give it to Espinosa just slightly until Robeisy proves it or takes it away back. This is his moment. This is his stage. What do you do, kid? In your moment. It's not what I say. It's not what anybody else says. It's what you do. You know? So
yeah, it's true, man. I agree. You know, it's just crazy because Robeisy was being talked about fighting anyway. Like, they were trying to line that up, man. A few years ago when he was fighting Fulton, they had Robeisy on the pro. That was the big fight. And look at how boxing changes the landscape of everything in a year.
Yeah, it was what we were talking about earlier with you know, letting fights marinate. And sometimes it works and sometimes it don't.
Yep.
Well, back then I laughed because when you said it, my mind is set for the time frame that it was said. And Naoya Inoue at the time it was like what was he at? All of 118 at the time, right?
Yeah.
And it moves up to 122. You know, everybody seems to want to put their name attached with Naoya Inoue. I mean, he's an amazing fighter. Like you know, when I watch boxing, like what he's doing in the ring is what I fantasize about doing. Like I've dreamed about knocking guys out that way in a ring. The way Naoya Inoue's knocking, the way he knocked out Maloney, in that transition, the way he knocked out Payano with one punch knockout, the way he went and dominated Jamie McDonald, the European champion that never been knocked down, champion for 4 years, undefeated for 10. He knocks him out in one round. Like the shit that he was doing is arcade shit. That's the stuff you do in a video game. Naoya Inoue.
Junto, bro. Junto's a bigger puncher. His stuff be like Street Fighter knockouts.
Yeah. Well, Naoya Inoue got a lot of those. He got a lot of those.
He sound like it's a shotgun, like when he hits people, man. For a little guy like that small to be having that much power, I don't know what those guys in Japan are eating, man.
I don't know. I don't know. But it's obviously, it goes to show you that it's technique, right? Because Naoya Inoue has a little brother. And in fact, he's like has one of the lowest rated knockout ratios in all of boxing. So if it was something they were eating or something he would have gave it to his little brother, right? Don't you think? He'd have gave it to him. Here, little bro. I don't want you to get knocked out and lose your belt like you just did. Well, he didn't get knocked out, but
you took it all, man. He said, I need this.
And it just goes to show you he was born with some of that and taught technique. I don't think a lot of people really caught onto the master class knockout, the way he knocked out Luis Pantera Nari. That was shocking to me. Because when I first saw it live, it didn't make sense in my head. You're not supposed to do that. I know distance. I know timing. I know how to punch. I've seen great punchers. I've been around great punchers. I know what it takes to knock people out, right? The way he knocked out Luis Pantera Nari, the way he stood there like a statue, and all the punches came from right here. He went like this. He went. And his head violently whipped back off. He slides down. His mouthpiece falls out. He has no idea where he's at. When Tank Davis hit Frank Martin with that same sequence, Tank threw the punch like everybody's taught to. You follow through with your waist. You twist with your hips. You raise your back foot like this, and you snap it, right? And then that he did that because once he hit Frank the Ghost Martin, his momentum went forward. He almost stepped over him because Tank's body was going forward. He was throwing everything into the punch. Naoya Inoue was literally standing in front of him and hit him with the 3.5-inch punch. He went. And bro, I was like, you're not supposed to do that.
Because I think when he was falling through, that's when he got caught. That's when he got dropped. When he was doing the follow through and doing scenario, he was coming around. That's another thing, bro. Some of these guys get dropped and it's over. But like Usyk, a lot of people thought when Dubois dropped him, he lost.
Yeah,
a lot of people thought that. Crawford, Green Machine, he got dropped.
I'm talking about mechanics. The mechanic of the way he threw the punch, not the knock. I've seen 100 knockouts in my life. It was the mechanics of how he threw it, what the position he was actually in, and the way he threw that punch. It doesn't make sense to me in my head. Like I couldn't teach my student. To throw that same punch. It's not gonna work for him.
Nah, that wasn't Roy Jones. You watch him, everything was wrong. He was doing everything. Roy was just special athletically.
No, he covered distance really well, real fast. With that lunging shot, and it was so heavy.
You should never be doing that.
It was so heavy. The way he hit these guys, man. He had guys getting up like this. Yo, Roy hit a guy. He had a seizure. Remember what was his name?
With the white,
his eyes rolled back in the back of his head.
Yeah, so maybe Inoue is one of those guys. He's just super athletic. Yeah.
It's like Floyd, my favorite fighter, Floyd, right? Like if a kid was to come in my gym, right, and say, "Hey, I want to fight like the best fighter," I would never teach him the Floyd Mayweather way. I would never teach a kid because first of all, I would look at the kid and say, "You would have to be born with cat-like reflexes, a gas tank that God blessed you with. You never get tired. You got to have all his traits. to pull off what he's pulling off. Not everybody's trying to duplicate it and always failed at it. Why? They don't understand everything that Floyd had. You need that to pull that style off. He was doing shit in the ring you're not supposed to do. And he was getting away with it because he was so fast. You try doing it and look how it worked out for you.
Yeah.
And that's not a style I would teach a kid.
Not traditional.
You know, no.
Nah, man. Nah. But it's exciting though. You know, guys like that. We need guys like that. Shout out to Abdullah. He said, this is a really good podcast. You guys are open-minded. You guys' opinions aren't biased. Wish more boxing podcasts could be like this. Honestly, when I started the show, that was my thing. I was like, man, I'm not going to be biased. I'm not going to be here gang banging about a certain fighter. I'm going to love all the fighters, bro.
It's also, boxing also is the only sport where fans do this. Like,
yes.
Yeah, fans.
Why you think I'm here with Ryan?
Right. I like Matchroom, but I don't like PBC. I like PBC, but I don't like Queensbury
don't like Eddie Hearn.
Like you see like football teams, they're fans of football fans, they're fans of teams and players, obviously, but you don't see fans saying like I only like the AFC.
Right. Yes.
Screw the NFC, right?
Yes.
Which is the equivalent of what boxing fans do, and it does not make any sense.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you brought up such a great point right there. And I just want to ask your opinion on this right here, right? In fact, we as like, American, like me, myself, from a young age, I was brought up to always pick my favorite team. I didn't always realize this, but until boxing made me realize this, that when I'm watching the 49ers play against the Patriots, they're both American teams. And I'm picking a player out of that. We're only competing against ourselves. Yes. So we're programmed to attack each other. Boxing is a global sport where we're representing our countries and we're bringing belts back home. The Japanese got 10 titles. They're winning right now. Our highest champion is Terrence Crawford at 154 for the Americans. That's it. And in the fair competition, we compete against everyone, right? But we're so taught as Americans to attack each other, to talk shit about your other American player that's in front of you. So when it comes to boxing, I don't think we can identify that. We don't identify that boxing is actually like the Olympics.
Yeah.
We're competing for the gold medals.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, you're right. And Americans have a tough time viewing any sport they're watching as global. Or they feel like because it's in the United States, it's global by default.
Yes.
When football's only played in America.
Yeah. So
you win in America.
Right. Yeah. So you win the Super Bowl and you're the world champion.
You're the world champion, right?
It's a national league. You're the national champion.
Yeah.
You see?
That's a good point.
when you said that, it made me, thinking I didn't want to.
That's a very good point, especially for the American fans. Yeah, they have a hard time.
No, and then we're like, I'm Americanized. I've been here my whole life, and I've seen so many things. It's hard to impress me. Mm-hmm. It's legitimately hard. I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard. I saw Roberto Duran. I'm not a young puppy. I might look good, but I'm 50. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I've been around for a little while, and I've seen some of these great fighters. So I'm not easily impressed. So when I started seeing the tanks and everything, I had to learn. Stop comparing them to your old favorite fighter and enjoy what we have. That's the only way you're going to appreciate the sport, Edwin. And I said, you know what? You're right. And if I love this sport, stop comparing these fighters to Sugar, to Floyd, to Felix Trinidad. They had their time. That was their moment. This is Camille Moten's moment. This is the Keyshawn Davises, the Abdullah Masons that are coming up. I can't wait for that boy to be a champion, But in order for me to see
y'all gotta stop it, man.
I had to let go of them in order to see them develop.
Yes, yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, we can't compare the two generations, man. It's just a different time.
I wasn't having a good time.
Like we were saying, Morgan, too, different athletes, just different fighters, man.
Yeah.
Different.
The sport evolves, right? And you can't.
I look at Usyk and I'm just in awe of him because he's fighting everybody that's 40 pounds bigger than him. 50 pounds bigger than him.
He's a true throwback. He's like a normal sized heavyweight in an era of super heavyweights. But also goes back to like shows you how important skill is.
Yeah. Hey Morgan. I tell you what though, right? Technically, Usyk is actually a big heavyweight. If you were to put him in the Tyson era, right?
That's true.
He would be a big heavyweight.
Yeah,
among these behemoths of men at 6'9". Like, you know, he's actually a decent sized heavyweight, but because of the fact that we have these gigantic freaking men that the Deontay Wilders of the world, he looks small, but skill wise,
he's it. He's every bit of skill. That's for sure. But yeah, man, I'm gonna close it out. Hey Morgan, let's let the people know where they can find you. I know you got your book there, man. Tell us about your book, actually.
All right, okay. Real quick. The book, it's not about boxing, but it has a lot of boxing references. So the book is called My Fighting Family. It's a memoir about me growing up. Check this. It's me growing up Black and American in Canada in a family whose two sides despise each other.
Okay,
so each of those. Go ahead,
Edward.
Yeah.
This is why, like, I'm glad Morgan's here, man. Don't you find the whole Drake thing weird? That Americans think that Canadians aren't Black enough. Like, I find it weird because I'm from Nova Scotia. My ancestors took the Underground Railroad.
Y'all are Scotian?
Yeah.
Wait, you said, hey, Ryan, hold on. Ryan, hold on. You're Scotian?
Yes, sir.
On your mama's side.
My mom. Yes, my dad.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say because I know I've listened to your dad talk. You don't sound like no Scotian to me. Now, what's your
Well, what I was gonna say was I'm sorry that I didn't even know this was a thing, right? That you're from Canada and you're not Black now. I don't. You got to be from America to be Black. That's ridiculous, brother. First of all, real talk. Don't ever let nobody tell you who you are. Don't let no one determine who you are. And as you speaking it publicly, I know that you're addressing it that way. As far as that goes, brother, that's just ridiculous. You know, Canadians, Americans, Chinese, Japanese, you're human. You know what I'm saying? You're a man, I'm a man. You know what I'm saying? And when men start looking at each other as men, rather than always putting these lines, we're always going to have these dividing things. That's why I'm sure my man Morgan wrote a book to tell points about how he feels. And now the world got you feeling a certain way and asking if you're Black enough or whatever, you know. I'm like, listen, brother, nah, don't, you know, but I get it. I already know your answer. I know what you feel inside. You're just asking me a general question.
Yeah,
you know?
It's just weird.
And I'm bringing it back to you. It's like, it's fucked up that the world got you feeling like that. like shit.
Like I feel like I'm more connected with them too. Like I feel like I'm more connected.
Ryan, but listening to you talk, because you do sound a little Scotian to me, and so you saying that makes a lot more sense. Like your brother, his bearing is very Jamaican.
Yeah.
But your bearing is very different. Like, okay, so now that you say that your mom is Scotian, it makes much more sense to me. A whole bunch of stuff now computes about you. Okay, makes perfect sense. Now, what part of Nova Scotia your mom from?
Oh man, we from the bushes. Guys, bro. So the closest like real is Cape Breton Island, is like really close to it.
So you're sort of north.
Yeah, very north. Yeah, it's beautiful though, man. Like I go there and
you've been there?
Off grid pretty much.
So,
oh man,
what are the common Black last names up there?
Borden.
Okay.
Kelly's, Dortons. They're not really my family, but Frazier's, obviously not my name, the S.
Yep.
Frazier's with the S.
Okay, yes.
Downies.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Pikes. Yeah.
They are everywhere.
Yeah, man.
Got you. Like Castillo Clayton has some Downey cousins.
Yes, he does. Yes. Castillo, yes.
Can I ask you guys my own experience? Apparently, unbeknownst to me, the name Edwin is a Black man's name in down south.
Oh yes, 100%.
I went down there and I said,
Puerto Rico
and the lady.
Are you Puerto Rican or Dominican?
I'm Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I can see it too. Yep.
Yeah, but over here in the East, it's a Puerto Rican name. So when I went down south, they was like, why you got a black man's name? And I was like, what? I've never heard a black dude named Edwin. And bro, that same day I met 5 dudes named Edwin.
I can see it.
Yo, I was like
I can
what
see it.
Yo, man, but
and our brothers and sisters from the Dominican also love that name.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Edwin.
I know a lot of Dominican dudes named Edwin. Look at Edwin de los Santos, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, the boxer. There you go.
Yeah.
But
Edwin Encarnacion, the baseball player.
Right.
Yeah. But I went down south and the lady was like, I've never seen a Puerto Rican man or Latin man with the name Edwin. And I was looking at her, I was like, man, where I come from?
Yeah. I got Abdullah here. He says, in my opinion, Toronto is a mix of many black cultures, whether it's Jamaican, Scotian, or Somalian. Oh, yeah, we got a lot of Somalian cultures up here, too. African American culture is its own thing. Toronto black culture also is its own culture. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, Morgan, sorry. Yeah, we'll close it up.
And to finish answering your questions, y'all can find me on basically any social at Morgan P. Campbell, mostly on Instagram and a little bit more active on TikTok these days. But also, because you guys are boxing fans, I know a lot of you subscribe to either ESPN Plus or to punchandgrace.com. Those Eye of the Tiger management cards that come from Montreal every 6 weeks. The next one is November 7th. Big fight I'm really looking forward to. Osleis Iglesias against Petro Ivanov, because Osleis is, I think, the boogeyman at 168. He's the guy that takes the guys that you go 12 rounds with and knocks them out in 1 round. Go look at his last fight against
Cuban, right?
Yeah, go look at his last fight against Evgeny Shvedenko. That was a scary knockout. You talking about a guy getting a seizure after a knockout, but like Osleis Iglesias, as far as I can tell, is the real deal. But it's just hard to tell more about him because he gets rid of guys so quickly. But fast, long, lean, powerful. Like doesn't look super strong, but gets leverage, and he's cat quick. So I'm really looking. So Petro Ivanov now should be more of a test for him. But if he beats the Petro Ivanovs of the world, there's nowhere to go but the top of the division. So I'm really excited about this main event, November 7th. ESPN Plus if you're in the US, punchandgrace.com if you're in Canada. If you're in the US, you can also subscribe to punchandgrace.com so you can go through the archives. Also watch the fights in French if you feel like it. Either or. But that's where you can find me. TikTok, Instagram, ESPN Plus, punchandgrace.com every 6 or so weeks when we're up in Montreal.
Yep. And thanks for coming through, man. I really appreciate you taking time out.
I'm gonna check out that guy. I'm gonna check out the guy.
Iglesias.
Listen, man.
I'm gonna go check him out.
Go look at Osleis Iglesias, Evgeny Shvedenko. It's not going to take long.
Where can I find a copy of your book?
So I'm fighting. It's in all the bookstores in Canada. Right now I'm fighting to get it into bookstores in the US. That's a process. I don't know why, but you can always order it online. So any place you order books online, the ebook is a little bit cheaper. But yeah, any place books are sold online, you can get them. And it's the process.
That's the book behind you. It says my fighting family, Morgan, right there.
Yeah. So Ryan, I talk about Nova Scotia right off the hop. Right off the hop.
Hey, it's a special place, man.
Yeah, and because
if you're on the East Coast, just go.
So many of the black people there, we share roots. My family is American, right? And so many of y'all are also from there.
Yes, that's why the Kendrick Lamar thing. I'm very sensitive about it because of that reason. I feel like I am of Kendrick Lamar too.
No, I'm very much of Kendrick Lamar, and the things that Kendrick criticizes about Drake, one, are true, but two, they're all self unforced errors on Drake's part.
Yeah,
in terms of how he relates to Black American culture, because he's a guy. His dad is from Memphis.
Yeah,
so he has no reason to sort of come across as the culture vulture.
No,
right? Like he has an authentic connection to the culture.
Yes.
And so Kendrick's saying, like, why is not your connection to this culture more authentic?
Yeah.
Because it should be. And Drake's just like, I don't know, you're rapping like you're about to get the slaves freed.
Oh man. Hey, yo, Edwin, where can they find you, my guy?
Y'all can find me on YouTube. That's Round One Sports Talk. You can find me on Facebook, Twitch. I go on almost every night live between the hours of 8:30. And then sometimes I do a recap of all the fights on a Sunday. But you can find me there, Round One Sports Talk.
Yes, sir.
Bro,
yes,
are you
sir.
Edwin? Are you on TikTok?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
She's on all the platforms. I'm not on any. Well, I was never on. I am on TikTok, but I've never been on Twitch, but I ain't on Facebook no more.
Right.
You said you're on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. Mainly on YouTube. I started on YouTube.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
I started my channel on YouTube, but like I'm not as good computer savvy all the time. And I'm out here in the boondocks by myself in my house. And my wife goes to work and she says every day she's gonna help me. I know she's hearing me in the next room, but she never does. And she never connects it for me. And I was never that type dude, but I'm learning. I get frustrated every day because what I did was when I didn't know anything about YouTube, I made 3 Facebook accounts. Because every time I logged out my password, I forgot it. I made a new account. That's all I did. So that bit me in the ass. When I really started filming, one of those got logged into. I was filming, didn't know it was going to a certain one, was telling people to go to this one. I was all over the place. All over the place.
Yeah.
So I slowed down and I locked what I know how to do. I know how to do YouTube. I know how to do Facebook. I know how to stream to Twitch. So now I just gotta be more with the content, But I'm trying, and I'm just like you, Ryan. You know what I mean? Just 2 brothers talking passionately about the sport we love and we enjoy as fans. And we try to be unbiased, and we don't really got a horse in the race, but every now and then we allow them to draw us back into the argument, draw us back, right? And when we're trying to stay cordial, But hey, Ryan, one more thing.
Yeah.
Did your brother fight yet, or hasn't?
Yeah. Oh, sure. I didn't even talk about. Yes. Yeah. My brother fought this past weekend. He had a 3rd round stoppage. Yeah. From what I didn't get to go, man, I had to work all weekend. But from what I heard, was he's looking much better. It's his last 8 rounder, so he's gonna start 10 rounders now. I think he's gonna fight in December. The whole thing was if he came out this fight with no damage, we'll go back into another one in December. So he looked good. Got the win on clean 3-round stoppage. I think the corner stopped it. And then my dad had another fighter, Ricardo Brown. He's a heavyweight. He got a decision win. So now he's 12-0.
Oh, Ricardo's training with your pops now?
Yeah. Ricardo's a great story, man. I love his story. You should talk to him about his story. He's definitely like a Deontay Wilder. Like he's in this for his son, his family, and Jamaica. He's from Jamaica. So yeah, his story is really well, like for boxing wise. And then Melinda Wapu, she got announced she's fighting Shadeja Green on the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul card. So my dad will be in Dallas, Texas next year or next month for that fight.
Oh, wait, Melinda's
WBO title.
Melinda's training with your dad now too?
Yep. Yeah, Melinda Wapu. Yep.
So does she live? Because in my brain, she's always been sort of an east end of eastern suburbs person.
Yeah, I think
she's making that drive every day, or she lives in Mississauga now.
No, she lives. Yeah, she lives. I think closer on the side of Mississauga because I know she went to Humber College for a long time. So I think she resides kind of in the Rexdale area now.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, she's fighting for the WBO title against Shadeja Green next month on that Jake Paul Mike Tyson card. So.
I wanted to know. I was curious about your brother. I was like, wait a minute. When I get on, I want to ask him. I was like, So yeah, man. I'm glad I remind you too.
Yeah, he's in that 54.
Your brother's on his way up. He's on his way up.
Yeah.
Watch
there's
out.
A lot of sharks there, but we're coming.
Yeah. Few years, 3 years, 4 years, be there.
Yeah. But yeah, man, thanks for coming in, guys. I'm gonna end the stream. Let you guys get to the evening.
Yes.
And we'll talk soon.
Hey, one more thing. When bro gets famous, can I get an interview? That's all I'm saying.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey,
Morgan, you're the man, bro. I'm gonna check the fighter out. I'm gonna see if I can check your book out.
Yeah.
And nice to meet you, Ryan. It's always been a pleasure, my man. Listen, anytime, Ryan. I left you my number on the Messenger Instagram thing. My phone number.
I got it, man. Yes, sir.
So if anything and anytime, just give me a call.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Guys.